This is Two Girls, One Ghost.
Two girls, one ghost. And we are your ghostesses. That's Corinne. I'm
Hello.
Sabrina. And this is an encounters episode where you email us your ghost stories, your weird, strange things that have happened to you, your friends, your family, the stranger you met on the bus. And we read them back to you. But I actually have a little bit of a surprise. We have a guest today. Someone to share their story with us live on the podcast. That's your cue.
I couldn't find a clean shirt.
Are you guys matching?
Okay, this is weird.
Okay, you stole my shirt.
Did you see me get dressed? Like, you're literally wearing the same outfit as me.
Why are there two of these in this house?
Look, even like your
yours
pants.
has a poop stain on it.
Okay, well, it's yours, so you pooped on it.
This is like a HGTV like renovation duo vibe here.
Can't believe you guys are wearing
Corinne's
the
just
same.
like, all right.
Not only are you wearing the same shirt, but Payne, they're both your shirts.
How stupid do I look?
You look pretty stupid, but I look really great.
Stand alone, you guys don't look stupid at all. Together,
It's concerning.
You
Yeah,
guys are-
it looks bad.
I feel like we're just going to end up like the creepy twins from The Shining.
it's not stupid, it's silly. And also, is that like a Vitamix or something? Because I 100% thought that was a Ready Whip Cool Whip thing. And I thought you were about to squirt it
I'm
in
about
your
to hit you
mouth
with
when
the-
you held it up.
Like right before, yeah, like I gotta do it every time.
Wait, yum. That's his weird like thing in a rider where you request Ready Whip.
I
Yeah.
actually have been requesting whipped cream on my coffee orders.
Yeah. and then you
Just
didn't
out
eat
of
it.
nowhere.
That's a move. What do you order for your coffee? Is it like a cappuccino or is it like a black coffee with whipped cream on it?
Today I got him a mocha latte.
Okay, so an appropriate drink to have cream on top.
Yes.
I always switch it up. Some days I'm like feeling a little fancy.
Yeah.
I want a little boost, a little cream
boost.
boost.
Cream boost.
Payne, are you going to tell us one of your own ghost stories or a story that you've collected from the thousands of people you've talked to?
I mean, I have one kind of ghost story, but it's going to be too long. I'd rather tell it
Is that
on
the one that you
a
told
longer
us, though,
episode.
about your neighbor?
Yeah.
Okay, so you told us that one on the episode of Haunted
Last year.
last
Okay.
year.
There's one story that still freaks me out that I was told from Radio Rental
Oh.
that kind of convinced me and my friend Mike that ghosts or something are real. So I'll give you like the log line of that story that
Okay.
Okay.
still kind of sticks with me a little bit.
Okay, and then you have to go change your clothes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not wearing that. Like, I mean, we should have coordinated better.
I know. This is embarrassing.
Or
I'm so
or did
sorry.
we do it perfectly? This is great.
That's true.
This will be the coolest thumbnail ever.
You didn't do this on purpose?
We absolutely did it on purpose.
We did it on purpose for sure.
Oh
We-
my
we
God.
tried
I
to
was
be funny.
fully convinced. You guys are good actors together. I was like, that is weird.
Thank you.
Yeah, I sold you.
Take a bow.
Okay, so you ready for it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so the story is called The Shadow Man. And basically, there was this guy, and I met him in person. And he's a super smart guy. I think he went to like Harvard or something and has a successful job. He's a no bullshit guy. And he told me the story in person. It was back when he was in college. He lived with two other roommates. And so, like, for about a year, they kept experiencing weird kind of hauntings in a way. They like, it started off really small where he would see like something in the corner of his eye. And then eventually that sort of morphed into one day he saw a man with a top hat just standing in the kitchen, kind of like broad daylight. And he talked to his other roommates and they had seen the exact same thing and hadn't influenced each other at all. And so towards the end of their lease, these sort of occurrences were ramping up and happening more often. And one night, which he describes, I think he said, like, this was the night that broke us. And I was like, okay, all right.
Ominous.
He said that he was in his bed and his door opens and it was really dark. And there was like no lights on really in the doorway, but maybe like one off in the kitchen. So it was kind of almost pitch black.
Yeah.
And he saw a figure of a person and he assumed that it was his roommate. He's like, what do you want, dude? Like, you know, why are you standing there like that? And then as his eyes started adjusting, he noticed this really big, bright, white teeth smile that he referenced. That the
Ooh.
closest reference would be the cat from Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah,
Cheshire.
that's exactly what I was thinking.
yes,
Cheshire
exactly.
cat.
And as it got closer, which it was moving towards him, not walking, but kind of floating towards him.
Smiling the whole time, too.
Yes.
Oh.
He realized that all it was a smile. And it was like a black entity, like he's like so black, it was like tar pit, black hole, like didn't make sense, but it was just a really bright smile. And he said that it felt like it knew it was scaring him and it liked it.
It's probably getting more power from that.
Was it still wearing a top hat, or was that just
So the top hat guy was, either
separate?
unrelated or some other haunting in there.
Yeah.
And so that night, it freaked him the hell out. And he went and slept in the living room. And he said over the course of the next 2 hours, his other roommate came out, and so did the next one. And they were all sitting there, and they said they'd never even talked until the next day. And one of their friends doesn't talk about it at all anymore. Like it fucked him up. But they all saw the same thing that night. And he's convinced that whatever that thing was almost like the remnants of a person. Like it didn't even know what it was anymore.
Have I ever told you the theory behind shadow people and these types of creatures? This one might be more of like some creepy negative entity, but there's a theory on shadow people that it's like when you pass away, there's an aspect of you that kind of like splits off from your soul that is more of like the negative, dark shadow form of your body. So like it used to be a part of you, but now has like festered and become something darker.
That kind of is what he felt like it was like. Yeah. Like it was confused and trapped. Ugh. And it was mad that it was still in there. And he thinks that all the other things that he experienced, and he also said that all the time, and you hear this a lot in ghost stories, like it was just real palpable feeling of somebody is in this room, literally, but I can't see them.
Yeah.
Just the way he told it, I was convinced, and he's no bullshit. And he's like, I don't know what it is. Maybe science explains it one day, but I saw this creepy fucking smile and it liked the fact that it was scaring.
So did all of his roommates also see the smile?
Yeah, so his roommates sighting of the smile like an hour later was even arguably scarier. He was sitting in his bed and he was looking at his computer chair, and all of a sudden it slowly turns around and it's just that smile. Yeah, like literally just like that. Like, it sounds like The Ring or something, right?
That's horrifying.
Oh my God.
I don't know what that thing was, but I don't ever want to see one.
Ew.
Or become one, because it doesn't sound like they're having fun either.
Yeah, it was lurking around for a long time too. I feel like it would be one thing if all the roommates experienced it all at the same time and then they walked out of their rooms and they were like, oh. But the fact that it was like one by one picking on them.
Yes. And it went down the hall, like in the order that they came out. Like his was the very first door. The second roommate, a little further down the hall, came out second. And the third one came out last. And so, I mean, you could make the assumption that it was going down the hallway one by one, just messing with them.
What state was this in?
It was in Michigan. I want to say,
okay.
Or no, okay. What states are which? Minnesota? That's a state, right?
State.
I think it was in Minnesota. Yeah.
When you're talking to these people, do they seem scared while they're telling the story?
The ones who are telling the truth, which are most of the people that I've ever met. I mean, some people I've been like, are you embellishing that? Which is like 2% of people I've met.
Mm-hmm.
They always kind of say the same thing. It's almost as if he's reliving some sort of trauma, right?
Yeah.
He is like begrudgingly telling this. He's not super thrilled to go revisit this thing that he experienced that he's never really been able to fully settle or wrap his mind around.
No answer.
And that bothers the hell out of him because he's very pragmatic, practical, smart dude, and he doesn't know how to explain it. And he knows that some people just don't believe him at all, but he knows that something really did literally happen.
Well, and it doesn't help that one of the guys won't even talk about it anymore either.
It broke that guy.
Do you remember what episode of Radio Rental this is on?
It's called Shadow Man. Okay. It was a paywall story though, so sorry.
Are you using us to get money?
So yeah, basically this was all for $5. This whole thing, this whole charade today.
Now we have to put this episode on our Patreon so that people can only get it behind the paywall.
But it's also one of our longer stories. It's like 23 minutes of this saga of this dude being haunted by the smiling shadow man.
Before you go, will you give us your creepiest smiling man smile?
Oh my God, really? Is this going on the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do it too.
You're not even smiling, really.
Well,
Are you asking me to smile? This is about you guys.
this is about everyone.
Well, you know I can't. I'm not good at it.
Can you talk through your mouth and not, or like through your
smile? Talk through your smile.
Yeah.
Can I talk through my smile? Am I doing it now? I feel like I'm still moving my lips a little.
You're talking through
I can't.
smile.
If I open my mouth, it's hard. Ventriloquy. That's like the first step of it, and I can't even do that.
Do you believe the Shadow Man?
We believe
100%. Yeah, I grew up with shadow people in my house, so 100%.
Were they ever just smiles?
That
No.
part's horrifying.
You said they were
part's really
big
scary.
teeth, like cartoon in shape and being like surreal, but literal teeth. Like
Yeah.
they looked like a real tooth, not like a cartoon tooth. Like
Right.
like big old chiclets.
You know, this is making me realize out of all the spirits that I've seen in my life, I've never seen a ghost smile, and I'm not sure I want to anymore.
Yeah.
You said that you wouldn't want to be this type of spirit if you ever die. I would.
Just tormenting people?
Yeah, if I die before you, I'll show up like that.
No, please don't. Please don't do that.
And I'll match every outfit you wear.
You guys are reminding me of is it like the little eggs or something in Shrek?
What?
What are
There's
the
eggs in
like
Shrek?
matching duo? No, I need to figure this out. I don't know why you guys are reminding me of this, but you, for some reason, remind me of Humpty Dumpty.
That is
Wait, put it more in the
really
middle.
not that nice.
I could see it though.
So
I get
who
it.
looks like this thing?
Us right now?
I feel like it's
We
the
both do.
attitude you bring in the outfits that is giving
Okay,
Humpty
yeah.
Dumpty
That egg
vibes.
energy? Yeah.
Are you commenting on Payne's really pale skin?
It's okay. I know that I'm
Our little
basically
pale Payne.
translucent. I'm a damn
White collar.
translucent egg.
Thank you for
Well,
joining us.
Thank you.
Love you.
I love you. I love Sabrina.
Me too.
All right, more ghosts. Bye.
Bye.
Going to change my shirt
I
forever.
know, I'm putting a sweatshirt on it.
Oh, you're not going to stick with the outfit?
It washes my skin color out.
Okay.
What do you think it does to me?
Well, same with my gray that I wear every single day.
Bye. Love you.
Bye.
Nothing like a headlock hug.
Good work. All right.
I feel like because Payne just shared a story, I feel like I should start
Yeah.
because the subject line kind of reminds me of Payne because Payne also has High Strange, the alien UFO investigative
Yeah.
podcast.
Okay.
And this title is called The Government is Late to the Party Acknowledging That Aliens Are Real.
They are late to the party. We all know.
Yeah, we've known that for a long time.
Yeah.
2, scratch that. 3, alien visits. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
I love the beginning of this.
I love it.
The first was very quick and still questionable visit from our friends in space, considering that at the time I lived in the very populated suburb of Washington, D.C., which is why I may question it today. I was driving home from some kind of sporting event at my high school, and the road I took was a neighborhood road, maybe only 9 or 9:30 at night at this point, and the
Mhm.
view of the sky is pretty obstructed by trees, but there is a slight opening where I could see the sky, and I noticed 2 brighter than usual stars side by side. Odd, I thought. I proceeded to drive, and I kept my eye up in that direction, and in the next opening, one of those lights beams to the right. I'm still driving, and the second light now darts to the left. I'm not sure of many stars that are that bright, side by side, that can also move. But who knows? I was near the government-protected places, so it could have been something else entirely.
Interesting.
Or not.
Or not.
A follow-up to the story goes alongside another experience that I had, but in an entirely different area. All the way in rural, dirt road, middle of nowhere, Georgia. And they say the peace level is 10 out of 10 here.
I imagine.
Similar to that previous story, I was in bed around 10 or 11 at night, and I was shuffling to try to get to sleep. I rolled over on my side and I faced the window, and the moon and a star in the distance was beckoning sleep to override me. But the sky got weird again on me, out of nowhere. I started looking out at the moon and its star friend, and not even an instant later, I blinked and the star was gone. As if sleep wasn't going to happen at this point, I got up and I looked at the sky, and this time, though, I had an accountability buddy. My boyfriend, still awake, also saw the exact same thing I did. The star that was next to the moon at one moment is not next to it in the next.
Oh my gosh.
Are we maybe thinking aliens at this point?
Absolutely. I've been thinking it since the beginning.
Right? Like literally from the first word.
Yeah.
It's usually how we begin.
From the subject line. We were like, yeah, aliens.
Aliens. The last story is my favorite to remember. It ends well. It's spooky AF. It's very paranormal. And in the heat of the moment of all of it, I don't think that I could have reacted better to my instincts. This happened in another place. I lived on the mainland of a beach town near a marsh, and it was a medium-sized neighborhood off an older, quieter road. Nothing but the marsh and woods surrounding the neighborhood as a whole. Again, I'm not expecting anything like what happened to happen in an area like that, except the unexpected ghostesses. I was in bed. I was minding my own business, doing what people do at night in the middle of the week. I was sleeping. And from what I can recall, I was deep in sleep. I awoke from my slumber, overcome with the alertness. I was wide awake. My brain finally caught up to the rest of my surroundings, and I looked towards the window of my room, and I realized it was probably in the middle of the night and that, I needed to go back to sleep. I just started to readjust my pillows, my blankets, and while I was adjusting, I heard what sounded like a street sweeper. It moved slowly with very bright lights down the street in the direction of my house. I could hear the trees rustling from the gusty winds. I come from city area, and that doesn't seem that odd for a street sweeper to be out right now, but no. Cars park on the side of the road on both sides. There aren't any signs that this neighborhood is about to get street sweeping. And why would it make a tree rustle so much? It just can't be that. In this moment of almost catching up and questioning what it could be, I stopped. I had an overwhelming sense of wanting to go look out the window at what this thing might be. See where the sound of the wind and where the lights came from. But then, in a split second, a gut feeling told me I needed to stay in bed. I should not get up, to not move, to not look in the corner of the room. So I stayed absolutely still, staring up at the ceiling, even with the urge of something else telling me to go look into the shadowed corner and to look outside to see.
Why are there like two instincts, like fighting? There's like dueling. Oh, it's scary.
The overbearingly bright light, the feeling brighter than day now, right outside of my window. Then, as if the sheer panic and the scared feeling were too overwhelming, I just fell asleep. And that was that. I didn't have any history at this point of sleepwalking or sleep paralysis, nor did I know what those things even were. Plus, I was able to move before whatever it was got close. And now knowing what sleepwalking and sleep paralysis is like, I know it was neither. It also piques my curiosity that no one in the house woke up or knew what I was talking about. And those are my UFO and alien nonsensical experiences. And this is from T.
Well, T, I think it's fair to say that like all alien encounters are pretty nonsensical because we don't know how to like really fully understand it.
Yeah.
But the amount of different and various encounters T has had makes me think that aliens have T on like a radar.
Because it almost seems like T has the aliens on a radar. Like to know when to look at a certain star and then that star disappear.
Right.
Well, I guess it's like there's only one scenario where that happened, where it was like where T and their boyfriend were in bed and then like both noticed the moon's star buddy leaving. I guess the other one, like T's driving or T's woken up in the middle of the night and there's like loud noises and all of this. If I could play devil's advocate for 1 second for the very final story.
Okay.
I do wonder, because this happens at my grandparents' house because they live near like the marshes and the seacoast of New Hampshire, and it's very, very buggy.
Yeah.
So at night, there will be every once in a while, it's not like a street sweeping car, but it basically almost looks like a dumpster truck.
Oh.
And it comes through and it sprays like chemicals to try to kill the mosquitoes into the air late at night when people aren't outside to try to mitigate the like extreme problem that they have there.
That's kind of scary
so it's,
to know that they're like spraying.
It's happened for decades.
How dangerous is that job? How much are you inhaling of that?
Oh my God. I know. Like I can remember it happening when I was really young visiting my grandparents. And it's like this low rumble of the truck. The lights are on because they're driving and they're going slowly. And it's like a shh as they're spraying. That's the only thing that I'm like, it could have been that.
Right.
Because they were by a marshy area. So maybe.
Sure. Or T was abducted by aliens.
The others I have no explanation for. And I also can't explain the weird like back and forth feelings that T was getting while that was happening either.
And then just waking up the next morning. Like, I feel like there's like lost time kind of too. Okay. Well,
aliens are real.
We never have answers. And aliens, we do know aliens are real, but we don't really understand where
That's our
they're from,
answer.
who they are, what they want. That's what we don't know.
They're alien to us, and they remain that way. That's why they're aliens, because we don't know much about them.
Okay, this is from our listener, Savannah, and it is called A Ouija Board and a Demon. Yeet.
Yeet.
Also, I'm really excited for the story that I have at the end of this episode because it's heartwarming, but it's also like
Oh,
my other dream, aside from being abducted by an alien, is what my last story is. Okay.
okay.
Hello, Corinne and Sabrina. My name is Savannah. Thank you so much for creating a safe and spooky, loving environment for all of us spooky ghouls who are fascinated by the paranormal. Feel free to use all the names in this story. They have been changed except for mine. Before I start, it is important to know some backstory about me and Karen's home. I've always been fascinated by the paranormal, and I would consider myself clairvoyant. I would see tall shadow figures to having premonition dreams, and I grew up in a Hindu household with my grandparents and my biological parents as Christians. So way before this incident took place, my friend at the time, Karen, who we're no longer friends, Karen moved into a rather creepy double-wide trailer in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains.
Perfect setting.
Dun, dun, dun. This was not too far from my childhood home. The day she and her parents started moving all of their possessions into the home, Karen and I decided to go outside and explore. What we found in the backyard was rather disturbing, to say the least. We found a very old lectern, which is that stand you'll see Bibles standing on in Christian churches. This lectern was covered in some weird black tar-like substance. We both knew instinctively not to touch it. Next to this lectern were some old and very eroded stone statues of what looked to be angels, but we're not really sure. We were kind of creeped out by this and ignored the feelings because we were kids. And about 100 feet from this lectern was a large black tarp that was covering a hole. How do you know, I might ask? Well, I fell into the hole. We were running around, and suddenly I tripped on the corner of this tarp and fell right on top of it. To this day, I have no idea what was in this hole, nor do I ever want to find out. This lectern with this creepy, suspicious substance, the statues, and this hole with the tarp, I immediately thought rituals and dead bodies.
Yeah. What did it smell like?
I
I'm curious.
can't imagine good.
Right. Yeah.
I stepped foot in this house and it felt very off. The air was thick. It was hard to breathe. It felt like you were drowning and that there were eyes all over you. And the energy in that house felt very masculine, to a point where every time I stayed there, I would greet whoever was there with something along the lines of, "Hello, sir. It is my pleasure to have the opportunity to come by today. You have such a lovely home."
You got to do what you got to do to try to appease the spirits.
Appease the spirits. Better safe than sorry. I always tried to be polite and very formal whenever I felt him around. I'm not really sure why, but it felt like he was from a more formal time period. Plus, he scared me, so I was trying to make amends with Ghostman so I wouldn't get possessed. But now let's go into the demons. Back to the summer of 2016 in North Georgia Appalachian Mountains. Yeehaw! Summer break had just started, and Karen and I couldn't have been more excited. Summer break for us 15-year-olds meant that I could stay at her house all summer, go to summer break parties, do illegal activities that 15-year-olds shouldn't do, which, you guys, makes us sound like convicts, but we just smoked weed and dabbled with a little bit of drugs. No judgment. It was a hard life back then. So 2016 was her sweet 16 and her golden birthday, so we were beyond ecstatic. The night of her birthday, it was me and about 16 others, and I'm only going to name 2 of the others because the other ones aren't really relevant to the story. So the main ones are myself, Karen, who's the birthday girl, Sally, and Cecilia. We did typical 15-year-old crap, talked about boys, our crushes, smoked some devil's lettuce, and it was around 11 p.m. when Sally randomly pulled out an old Ouija board. Naturally, me being the spooky bitch that I am, was like, hell yeah, let's use it. So only Sally and I used it. I wanted to get in touch with my grandfather who had passed away 1 month prior. He was my rock, my best friend, my everything. And he was the one who had helped me with the spiritual aspect of my life and taught me about crystals, and we would have early morning and night meditation sessions where we would focus on opening up our chakras. Well, what we got with the Ouija board was very different. For the first 20-ish minutes, it was very underwhelming. Nothing happened, and Sally and I both were getting disappointed. All of a sudden, the planchette started to move. I got frustrated with Sally thinking she was moving it, and when she said, "I'm not," the planchette shot across the board so fast and violently. And when I say violent, I mean violent. It ripped itself out from under her fingers, and the planchette was hot to the touch.
Oh, God. Oh, see, if this ever happened to me, I would never, I'd
no.
never, ever play again. Like,
No.
swore off of everything paranormal.
I agree.
So scary.
I refused to take my hands off of it for a number of reasons, but I had questions. Number one, you aren't supposed to take your hands off without saying goodbye. Number two, why was it so violent? Number three, why was the planchette feeling so hot? It was like it was on fire. Number four, who and what was coming through? So now you're probably thinking why you keep your fingers on a planchette that feel like it's on fire. But let's just say I was really good at disassociating. And I was also scared that if I did take my fingers off and didn't close out properly, it would attach itself to me, which snaps, Savannah snaps because
following the rules.
That's the rule. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the planchette starts going back and forth to random letters. And at first we thought it was gibberish. And then Karen pointed out it was Latin. I guess she was taking Latin in school. I asked, what is your name? And it responded with ORCUS, Orcus. I asked, what do you want? It responded with Karen and her grandmother's name. After that, Karen started to panic and ran into the bathroom. Me, being the good friend I am, said goodbye, closed out the session on the Ouija board and chased after her. 15 minutes later, she felt a burning on her back. So I looked and saw 3 bloody scratch marks down Karen's back. I was a tad bit skeptical because she had just gone to the bathroom by herself for a while.
Yeah.
And Celia and I went into the bathroom to try to recreate the scratch marks with everything sharp that was in there, even with our own hands, and nothing matched. Also, the scratches were on a particular part of her back that was really hard to reach on your own.
It's almost like the entity wanted to do it specifically like that, like hard enough and in a weird to reach area where it's like, if you're trying to test out if this is real or fake, it's really hard to disprove.
And here's where 15-year-old Savannah comes through. So needless to say, we were spooked, but I wanted to continue. I don't know why, but I was so strongly fascinated by whoever had just contacted us. And I wanted to know why. Why did it say Karen and her grandmother? Who is Orcus? I needed to know. So we calmed Sally down and I tried to contact Orcus again. And I succeeded. I asked, what are you? And it said 2 words, God and underworld. It was in that moment that I was like, uh-oh, Savannah, you screwed up. And after those 2 words, I immediately felt the ghost man's presence and I knew he was mad. I mean, I would be too. Some idiotic 15-year-olds contacting the god of the underworld. Now, when I say mad, I more mean the fact that Orcus was there and not so much at all of us together. He kind of felt productive, but it felt like there was a shielding from something more demonic. So I immediately said goodbye. I went to the bathroom. And when I came back, you guys would not believe what I saw. Stupid Karen and stupid Sally burning the Ouija board. I got so furious because I was like, you never, ever burn a Ouija board. So my bad bitch witch comes out and I immediately start doing my thing. I grabbed Karen's crystals, moon water, incense, and I recited a few prayers. We all stayed up a few more hours and then went to bed. It was Karen and I sleeping in the living room on the couch. And I remember waking up, looking at the clock at 3:33 a.m. That was enough to freak me out on my own. So I woke Karen up because, sorry, girl, I am not going to be the only one awake at 3:33 a.m. You're going to experience this with me. She was annoyed, of course. So I said the same thing to her. We sat up on the couch and looked down the hallway. And you guys, we see what to this day still haunts me. And warning, this does get very emotional. We see a woman. Now, this woman was not with us at the party, nor was it Karen's mom. My first thought was, shit, did someone break in? But the closer we looked at her, we realized she was not alive. Her ball joints, such as her kneecaps and elbows, were backwards, which caused her feet and arms to go backwards, but her head was normal along with her torso.
Ew. Oh my God, it's so gross.
She was partly transparent with her hair down to her hips, a white dress, and the worst part of all of this, you guys, she was twitching, like whole body twitching, including her heart, which you could see rapidly beating through her torso.
This feels so fucked up. To reference A Court of Thorns and Roses, this kind of feels like an Amarantha move.
It's horrifying.
Like a torture situation.
Karen and I were completely mortified. Karen and her dumbass decided to yell, leave, which made this scary demon twitching lady sprint towards us, and I mean at an unnatural speed without hesitation. So I stood up, I grabbed a Bible, which was on the nearby nightstand, and I screamed the Archangel Michael protection prayer. And once she was right in front of me, she let out this blood-curdling scream, and then, poof, she vanished. Everyone in the house heard the commotion and woke up from it, and they came running. As for the ghost man, I actually felt him in that moment come behind me and touch my back. And the words, "You're strong and I'm proud," came into my mind.
Oh my God, I'm glad he's helping.
In that moment, he felt way less hostile than he ever had before. So in the end, the ghost man wasn't really aggressive towards me anymore. And maybe I sent the demon back to hell, which is pretty freaking rad in my opinion. Also, in my opinion, I would say never use a Ouija board. But if you do, please don't be as stupid as us 15-year-olds. As for Karen, Sally, and Cecilia, we are no longer friends. Our friendship was strained and Karen started to be way more hostile towards me. And I was stuck in a pretty abusive and manipulative relationship with her for far too long. After that incident, my life went into shambles, and I'm pretty positive Orcus had something to do with it. Both my mom and my psychiatrist and I thought I had schizophrenia, considering at night I swore I could hear people talking. I would hear footsteps coming to my room, and I would see tall shadows. But after a while, it just randomly stopped. And I don't have schizophrenia. Occasionally, I still see shadows, and I can kind of see and feel if something's off. Thanks for taking the time to read my story. I will see you on the other side. Sincerely, Savannah.
I mean, that is such an unfortunate Ouija board experience. It's both incredible because Savannah now gets to tell the story, right? Right? But
Right. Glad we have this.
to experience it in its full extent too, because it's beyond the board. It's like moving into dreams. It's potentially affecting people for years. Like Savannah was still exposed to like these voices and different paranormal activity for a long time, so much so that she thought maybe she had a mental illness.
I mean, I am glad that she was like getting that checked out because, there are possibilities of that. But like how isolating and terrifying to feel like you're experiencing this and it's so real for you, but no one else is experiencing it.
Wait, so is this the story that you said you wanted so badly to experience for yourself?
No. The story I have to end on.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm like literally choking on my own saliva. I would never want to experience this, truly.
No, never. You kind of did with like the man charging at you, but...
Yeah, but I didn't have a planchette on a Ouija board ripped out of my hands moving
and like
across
burning.
the Ouija board. Yeah, that's for scary movies. That's not for real life.
No, thank you. It's almost like the god of the underworld sent out like a underling to do their dirty work. And that was the woman with the backwards joints and stuff.
So gross. So gross.
The one positive is that whatever masculine, aggressive energy that was at Karen's house that Savannah had always like gone out of her way to say hello to showed up in a really fucking positive, good way when needed.
And Savannah seems pretty prepared given all the different scenarios and situations that were thrown at her. Watching the Ouija board burn, Savannah's got a kit. She's got some supplies. She's ready to go. She's trying to reverse what's being done.
Yeah, agreed.
So I do appreciate that because without that, like how much more
terrible
would the situation be?
Yeah.
My last email that I will share is from our listener, John. Hey guys, love the podcast. Keep up the good work. I'm a retired Air Force veteran, and from 1989 to 1992, my first duty station was the 1957th Communications Group, Hickam Air Force Base in Hawaii. Hickam Air Force Base and Pearl Harbor are right next to each other. The Porter Gate actually passes from Pearl Harbor to Hickman and vice versa, and both were bombed by the Japanese on December 7th, 1941. At one point while I was there, I was waiting for my security clearance to be upgraded for a new job. Because I couldn't go to work until I had my new clearance, I was working mid-shift at the Job Control Work Center. Job Control is the work center where units will call in communications about maintenance requests to get equipment repaired. Job Control was located on the 3rd floor, the L Wing of Pacific Air Force Headquarters, and my shift started around 2300, so 11 p.m.
Okay.
And it ended the next day at 7 a.m.
The graveyard shift.
You get to see midnight and 3 a.m. Oh, also the other day, Brian was like, I keep waking up at 3 a.m. It's so weird. Like, I hate just waking up in the middle of the night, and it's always at 3 a.m. And I was like, that is odd. It does happen to a lot of people around that time. Perhaps it's just because it's in the middle of the night. I didn't have the heart to tell him the paranormal side of the story.
Brian's so pure.
I know. He was just like, oh, always at 3 a.m. And I was like, yeah.
Weird.
Always at 3 a.m.
That is strange, Brian.
Who's calling you?
What does he think of all the ghostly things that have happened in your house?
I don't share anything with him because he gets scared.
He
and
didn't
I
know.
want him to be
What
scared.
did he think about when the alarm went off, though, and then the curtain rods fell?
Oh, I very much was like, this is a ghost. And he just like looks at me and just goes and walks away. It's like a panic, but a little bit of a smile and I don't want to engage with this conversation.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So funny.
If anything happens and it like truly spooks him into admitting the paranormal is around us, I'm going to have to deal with it. He will kill the insects. I will manage
Handle the
the
ghosts.
spirits.
It's a great partnership you have over there.
Mm-hmm. Both appear just as frequently as the other. So
True. In your life, especially.
okay, while I'm at work, I'm in an enclosed room with cipher-locked doors. After hours, no one can enter the room unless they call me and I buzz them in. A typical night is fairly busy until around midnight, and once I get the job control board updated, it gets pretty dead, pun intended. The layout of the room is as follows. The desk was L-shaped and it sat against the north and west walls of the room. The door to enter the room was on the east wall. The computer we used to type up maintenance requests was on the desk facing the north wall, and facing the computer above the desk on the west wall was a television that we used to pass the time when it was quiet. When you were facing the television, the entrance to the room is directly behind you.
I'm already picturing some weird shadows in the screen of the television.
I think it was my second night on mids alone. I had just finished updating the job control board and I turned to face the television to see if there was something interesting to watch. I flipped through some of the channels and settled down to watch. Then I felt it. You know that feeling you get when someone is watching something over your shoulder?
Yep.
I got that. And it was coming from directly behind me in the direction where the door was. So I sat there for a minute and I didn't turn around. My logical brain was telling me that it was impossible for anyone to be in this room with me because I hadn't let anyone in, but the hair on the back of my neck was screaming at me to turn around because there was someone behind me. I turned around and nothing was there. I found something to do for the rest of the night to just keep me occupied. The next night, after I got my work done, I had the same experience. I get settled down to watch television and a strong sense that someone is standing behind me watching television too.
They just like whatever you're watching. That's exciting.
They're ready for the entertainment. When it happened the third night, I had had enough. I turned around to face it and I said, damn it, if you're going to watch television, just don't do it while you're standing right behind me. And it went away. That's a good point. It's like you can choose somewhere that's not breathing down the other person's neck in a big room.
Exactly.
I didn't sense anything for the next few days. I just watched television until the end of my shift as if it had never happened. Several days later, I get through my usual work, I find something on television, and I feel it again. But it isn't directly behind me. I sense it's coming from my left where the other desk was. I don't know why, but for some reason, I didn't have a problem with that. For the next few months, while I worked there, it happened every night, but never again from behind me.
Aww.
Always off to the left at that other desk.
Wait, that's so sweet.
I know.
It was like a very I am learning. Thank you. You can tell me and I will take note.
Right, because before, maybe it just didn't realize, whoever this was, didn't realize that you couldn't see them and didn't want to spook you in case you could. So
right.
It was like, well, I'll just stand right behind. We're they're never going to see me.
Right.
Not realizing that you can also sense that.
That's sweet.
Okay. Later in my career, when I was stationed at Randolph Air Force Base in Texas, I was a security forces augmentee for the base for 2 years. So I was a cop. And I experienced a number of unexplained encounters when I was on patrol.
I'm sure.
The most memorable event was witnessed by myself and a couple dozen other members of the Security Forces Squadron. It was late at night, and the Resource Protection Section had initiated a resource protection exercise. There are a number of facilities on that base that are considered priority resources. Once a quarter, the Resource Protection Section will initiate a no-nonsense exercise to evaluate flights on their procedures. This particular exercise involved one of the headquarters buildings on that base that used to be an old base hospital. The first thing that has to happen when securing a scene is that you have to get a 360-degree observation of the scene. For a typical square building, this means that you would need to post someone on the 2 diagonal corners of the building, and this particular building was not square and it required 4 units to acquire a 360-degree observation. So my partner and I were the 5th unit on the scene, which meant that we were the unit assigned to perform the walk around of the business. We pulled our M16s and our flashlights and we start to walk around the building, checking to see if there are any open doors and looking through windows to verify that, there's no one inside the building. I come around one corner and I'm looking through a window on the front of the building that is directly opposite the exit door at the back of the building.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm scanning the interior of the building through the window, I see a large shadow pass between me and the exit sign over the rear exit door. My partner, who's performing the walk around with me, also saw the shadow. I keyed my radio. Randolph, this is 420. I have observed movement within the building. I should note now that everyone involved at this point is aware that this is an exercise. Another voice comes over the radio. Randolph, this is resource protection. Terminate exercise. We do not have anyone inside the building. Resource protection on the radio is a master sergeant running the exercise, and he's basically saying, this is no longer an exercise. We have a real world situation.
It's so scary that it's like the spirit is almost like knows that they can make it scarier. Like this is supposed to be an exercise, and the guy's like, well, actually, what if it's real?
So attitudes have shifted to a more serious posture. We call out the building custodian to bring us a key and additional security force members so that we can clear the building. In the meantime, myself and my partner are posted up at the front window to maintain visibility inside the building. While we're waiting for the key, we observe the shadow moving around inside the building at least 3 times. I say at least 3 because there were a couple of cases where I saw something and she didn't, and then she would see something and then I didn't.
Interesting.
The custodian arrives with the keys and we move to the rear door to clear the building. We spent almost an hour clearing the building and we didn't find anything. When we exited the building, we noticed the flight sergeant standing away from the building under a tree. Didn't find anything, did you? He says. No, nothing inside the building, I said.
He knew.
This isn't the first time I've seen this happen. I've gotten to the point where I won't even go in that building anymore if I can get away with it, he says, especially if it's in the basement where the morgue used to be. Everything got filed in our nightly police blotter by the desk, and apparently it wasn't an unusual occurrence for that building or for that base in general. I was listening to your episode on Mothman, and you mentioned the grinning man. I feel like this just goes back to Payne's story too, where it's just like the Cheshire cat. But you mentioned the grinning man. He has a name, Indrid Cold, which you covered.
We just did a whole episode on. Yeah.
Yep. Most of what is known about Indrid Cold comes from a UFO encounter just outside of Parkersburg, West Virginia, about 60 miles northeast of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, relayed by a man named Woodrow Woody Derenberger about 12 days before his first Mothman sighting. Derenberger described Indrid Cold as about 6 feet tall, 185 pounds, with dark, slicked-back hair. He was wearing a black trench coat, and he had a beaming smile. During this encounter, Derenberger met a man in black that had a beaming smile, constant grin on his face, and this man said that his name was Indrid Cold. He asked Derenberger a number of questions about himself and Parkersburg, West Virginia, which could be seen in the distance.
If you want more of this, in case you didn't know, episode 262, we did like a whole thing on like Woodrow Derenberger's encounters and Indrid Cold.
And it's so fascinating because you also talk about the planet that Indrid said he comes from, Lanalos. Lanalos. Yeah. It's super interesting. So definitely listen to that episode. It was
It's such a good one.
The unnerving part was the fact that even though Derenberger could hear what Cold was saying to him, the man's mouth never moved. I just recently heard your episode with a story about the haunted train tracks in San Antonio, and I've lived there for 12 years, and I have been on those tracks more times than I can count. On Halloween, in the area, cars get backed up for miles waiting to get their chance to be pushed off of these tracks.
Oh my God, that is so cool.
I can confirm from personal experiences that the road that crosses the tracks runs downhill, and gravity is probably what is moving these cars across the tracks. I personally have used a carpenter's level to verify that the road does run downhill. I love that. Like you just bring like a level. And you're like, yep, the bubble's tilted down.
Study. Yep.
Or the bubble's tilted up.
Getting
so
proof.
Yeah. Thanks for the podcast, John.
John, you have worked at a couple very haunted places. It does. Okay. Like, I know that this is like a scary situation to be going through when you're like doing a drill exercise to like make sure a space is cleared and then a ghost pops up. But I also like to imagine that the ghost is like, well, if you're going to do an exercise, why don't I help you make it feel more real? And that's exactly what the spirit did.
Again, I love hearing about like Air Force bases and military bases being haunted because these are people that are going into situations where it requires so much bravery, and yet there's so much fear of ghosts on these bases. It's so funny, but it's also like just proof in the paranormal too, where like they have a ton of resources to be able to investigate these things.
Yeah.
And the sergeants, like the people that are heading the bases, are like, yeah, it's a ghost. This place is haunted. We've all experienced it.
I'm so excited. I don't know when exactly I'm going to do this, but the Rendlesham UFO incident, I started doing research on, and it's very similar. It's like a military base. This wild UFO encounter happens, and there's so much evidence.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear about it.
Oh, it's such a crazy story. But I'm going to end on this fun story. This is something I've said many times I would love to happen to me. It is called Psychic Medium Approached Me at Dinner.
Oh, this is something I also want, but you always talk about this.
Yeah. This is from our listener, Jess, and I want to say that, trigger warning, it is a bit heartbreaking and sad, and it involves loss, but it's also a very beautiful, heartwarming story. Hi, ghouls and kitty. My name is Jess. I have been a fan since the junior year of my high school, which was 2019. You guys got me through COVID and many road trips, so thank you. I have a couple of different stories I'd like to share with you, but the story I want to share now happened a few weeks ago. Content warning, mention of suicide and drug overdose. I am the middle child and have an older brother 6 years older than me, an older sister 3 years older than me, and a younger sister who's just 2 years younger than me. Plus my bonus stepbrother, who's the youngest and 3 years younger than my little sister, which I think means 5 years younger than Jess. For some backstory, my dad had died by suicide when I was just 6 years old. I was 6, so my mom never told me that he had taken his own life, just that he had passed away. When I was around 9 years old, I had the feeling that I needed to ask my mom if he had taken his own life. I was young, but I was not dumb. She looked at me in shock and said, "Who told you?" We immediately drove to my mom's best friend's house to talk to my sister and I about what happened with my dad. She was practically my father figure growing up because she was always the other figure and other parent in our lives that we looked up to. She loved the role, and she had even gone as far as taping her boobs back and drawing chest hair and leg hair on, and shoved her afro into a ball cap to take me to a daddy-daughter hike with a youth group that I was in.
Oh my God. Oh, that's so sweet.
I loved her so much, and I'm so grateful to have her in my life. But anyway, back to my story. So I went with my older sister and a friend for a little girls' night out, and my sister has a severe nut allergy. And due to some pretty bad postpartum depression and OCD, she really hates trying new places. So we were deciding between these two places that my sister liked. And once we got on the road, we passed a restaurant. My sister mentioned, "That place is cute. Maybe we should try it out." So I was like, that is so weird and so unlike you, but sure. So we did. We went inside the restaurant, and in the 22 years that I have known my sister, she has never asked this question before. She asked the hostess if they had bar seating, and we were told that there was an open bar upstairs. So we went around and we scouted out, and there was one table open. We took the spot and had the best food ever and some amazing drinks. During our meal, we kept seeing this one server who was clearly not serving in our area, but kept coming over, and she kept making eye contact with us. And there was just like a weird tension between us. And I kept noting it, being like, what is going on? We finished our meal, and this lady comes to our table. She pulled up a chair next to my sister and said, "Hi, I know this is very weird. I'm a psychic medium, and I'm so drawn to your table, especially to you." My eyes widened as I looked at this stranger, who somehow felt familiar, talking to my sister. She asked if she could come sit next to us after she cleared some dishes and connect with whoever it was that was clearly trying to communicate with us. Obviously, we said yes. So a few minutes later, she came and sat down with us. She asked for my sister's name and date of birth. She wrote down the information and started tapping her fingers and circling her pen on the page. She was channeling right in front of us. I could have died. So she started asking my sister if she had a friend who recently passed. My sister thought for a moment, but I immediately started thinking about her friend from high school who had really sadly, unfortunately, just recently passed of a fentanyl overdose. The medium asked if there was a bracelet or anything that was connected to this friend, and she shook her head no. My sister was giving this lady nothing to go off of. At this point, I'm a little skeptical of the entire situation, though I'm stoked that it's happening, but I've never experienced anything like this, and having listened to your podcast for so many years now, I know it's possible and it does happen. And I had always wanted to go to a psychic for the longest time, but always stopped myself because I would get nervous, and I was nervous that they would look up information, find out about my dad passing, and kind of use that for those readings because you literally could find my blood type on my mom's Facebook. That's how much she shares. The psychic's demeanor changes, and she asks my sister if her father is still with her. And I kind of like to think that my dad shoved his way past everyone else trying to come through and was like, I want to make myself known. My sister shakes her head no and looks over to me. The medium asks for my dad's date of birth and name and starts to write his date of birth. In my sister's shocked state, she struggled to remember the year of my dad's birthday, and I turned my head and showed the tattoo with the year of my dad's birthday. The medium thanks me and asks if I'm a sister. I nod, yes, and she starts to tell us things to describe my dad to a T. That he's burly, strong, tall, very funny. And she asked my sister if she had a jewelry box that my dad had given her. She shook her head yes. And she looked at my sister and said, he wants you to know that the jewelry box is from him. Does this make sense? My sister stared at me dumbfounded and said yes. I had no idea what she was talking about, but I found out after we left the restaurant that my mom had actually gone to my sister's house that week prior, and my sister pulled out a jewelry box that my dad had given her before he passed. She showed it to my mom and said something along the lines of being grateful that my dad had left it for her. And my mom, who is an extreme narcissist, said, your dad didn't get that for you. I got that for you, and probably put your dad's name on it and then gave it to you. Oh. Well, apparently our dad did give it to her, and he wanted to reiterate that through the psychic.
Oh, I see. I love that so much. That he's like,
especially because that had just happened.
This is going to mean so much to her, and I'm not going to let this be taken from her. She has to know it is from me.
Yeah. She mentioned us living in my dad's best friend's house and brought up his friend's obsession with Harley Davidsons. She asked us if we had any idea what the significance was of a pearl, and she kept clasping her hands together and said that our dad kept showing her the importance of this pearl and that he was protecting it. My sister said that she had just had a daughter, and the birthstone of my sister's daughter is a pearl.
It's just so beautiful. Like, there's so many signs that are so specific to what's happening to them right then.
The medium told us that our dad wanted us to know that he's protecting her like a clam protects a pearl, and that he was also signifying that he protects us kids the way that my sister's jewelry box protects her jewelry. She told us our dad was saying something about our whole family being sad that he's not able to meet the baby, hold her, and get to experience her. But then she said that he was puffing out his chest saying, to hell I didn't. I actually was the first to hold these babies, acknowledging that in the other side, he was holding these babies. And it also acknowledged my sister had several miscarriages before the daughter that she had had. And so we like to believe that our dad had been holding these babies on the other side.
Oh my gosh.
She then asked if my dad had a cough. My sister and I looked at each other and we were like, no. And at this point, I was kind of let down, just wondering if she was using our body language and stuff to get answers from us. But she kept asking questions regarding a cough, such as if he smoked or had lung problems, etc. The psychic truly was having a physical reaction to it, and she started coughing, and she couldn't stop for like a solid minute or two. And then she was like, hold on, how did your dad die? And this is trigger warning for how it happened. But my dad had driven to our cabin, turned on the truck, four-wheeler, and laid down and died of carbon monoxide poisoning and asphyxiated to death. The cough. My dad was showing her how he had died.
Oh my God.
She told us that my dad regretted it, and it was too late. And he really felt like we both needed to hear this, that he was so sad and always regretted his decision. But the psychic told us that he wants us to know that it's not worth it. Life is so worth living, and he wishes he could undo the decision, and he saw the ripple effect that his death caused and how it affected all of us. I asked her if streetlights going out were my dad showing that he was there watching me, and she said yes. Some spirits on the other side are able to present themselves using electricity, and if we see something over and over again and connect it with that loved one, it's probably them presenting themselves to us. As she was explaining that, she said, "Oh my gosh." And the lights flashed, and she got a message from my dad saying, it's me. Tell her it's me."
Oh, the lights like literally in this restaurant started to flash.
Yeah.
This is such a powerful, oh my gosh. Just even the fact that her sister initially was like, let's try a new restaurant and let's go upstairs.
That's exactly what she's about to say.
Yeah. To gain access to this medium, it's like their dad was shoving them towards her.
Yeah. She said, "I don't think this was a coincidence that it happened to us. Despite all of my sister's things that she was going through to decide, hey, that place looks cute. Let's go over there, sit in a bar area, which we never, ever did, and meet a psychic medium who let us talk to our dad. I mean, I always assumed I would never get closure about my father's death, but this helped me be more at peace with it. Thank you for having a safe environment for people to share their stories. I am beyond grateful to have found your podcast and will definitely send in more stories. Keep up the spooky ookiness, Jess."
Wow. It's so beautiful. And I'm just so glad that they had as much time as they did to communicate with their dad. You know, because like this medium didn't, like maybe she could have thought like, oh my God, I'm getting this overwhelming sense, but like, this isn't the day for me to communicate. Or she could have been like, you know what, like I'm here with my family or my friends or whatever. Like I just have like a minute. But she sat there and took the time and was like, no, this reading has to happen. It's really specific. Even if you're saying no to these certain...
She works there.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought it was just like another patron.
No, she works there. Which now I'm like, I want to know the name of this restaurant and find this woman. And like, Jess, did you get her information? Have you gone back there since? I would be like, I'm going back.
100%. But it is just so incredible too. That makes me believe so much more in people who have those abilities to connect with the dead. When you're being like, no, that means nothing to me, what you're saying. And they're like, okay, but it means something to them. And they like have to work it out and figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not just like a throwaway sort of answer. Oh my gosh. And the music or the jewelry box is from him.
It's from him.
Dang.
I'm sorry for your loss, Jess. That's really, really hard. But I do love that he was able to come through in this way and that it gave you a little bit more closure, especially so many years later. And that you know that he's watching over you and that anytime a light flickers and like the lights on the street go out, it's him. He's with you. Like, I think that's so special. And
he came through in a way that is so cool. It's like a way that everyone wishes that could happen.
I know.
You know? You got like one of the coolest experiences.
Seriously.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. If you have any ghostly paranormal experiences, please email them to us at twogirlsoneghostpodcast@gmail.com. And if you would like episodes 1 week early and ad-free, join us on Patreon. We also have bonus episodes every single month and campfire stories every Tuesday night. And I think this episode comes out in September. So if you've been with us on Campfire Stories and on Patreon, you've seen that we have some special guests. Payne is also joining us on Campfire Stories over the summer while Corinne is on maternity leave. But Corinne, you'll be back from maternity leave like very shortly after this episode comes out.
I got to kick Humpty Dumpty off of his comfortable Campfire Stories seat.
Yes. Humpty Dumpty.
You two together were giving Humpty Dumpty vibes. I'm probably so wrong. If I rewatch Shrek, I'm probably going to be like, you guys weren't doing that at all.
But it's what came to you, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I take it as a compliment. Rate and review us on iTunes.
Tell people about us. Happy almost spooky season. Well, it basically already is spooky season.
It is.
Totally. But happy almost October.
We love you all. And thank you so much to our editor and producer, Jamie Ryan, who edits our audio and video that you watch and listen to. We're grateful for you. Thank you.
And we will see you on the other side.